Take a moment to picture yourself at work. I'm willing to bet that many of you are on a laptop, and you're probably sitting behind a desk, even if you're not in a traditional office. I work out of Facebook London, and it has its quirks. The ceilings aren't finished. You can still see the air conditioning ducts. There's a 3D printer room. But fundamentally, I still go into an office, and I'm working normal business hours. But this is not normal. Over 3 billion people go to work every day, and most of them are not like you and me. They don't have a work laptop. They are not sitting behind a desk. They are on shop floors, working in factories. They're stocking shelves, driving trucks, cleaning hotel rooms. They're mobile first, often mobile only, and they are the backbone of the global workforce. My name is Christine Overby, and I am the Global Product Marketing Lead for Workplace. And I'm so excited to be here today along with our customer from Ennismore and our partner from the Bot platform. We're going to talk to you about how we build for the front line. But first, for those of you who don't know Workplace, we make businesses better by creating connected companies. Companies where people are closer, teamwork is faster, and culture is stronger. Here we are with a couple of our customers.
We cross the ocean.
Fly you home. Make you beautiful. Make a difference.
Make things happen.
And from ship to shore.
Check-in to cockpit. Street to salon.
Beach to boardroom. Office to ice.
Workplace brings us together.
To transform our company into a community.
Because together changes everything.
What we do at Workplace is we take some of the familiar features from Facebook and bring them into the organization. So you have newsfeed, and you have groups. You also have video and messaging. And we're using these tools alongside the tools that most companies have because we need to make sure that we are providing a simple way for companies to connect to their organization. We're growing fast. Earlier this year, we announced 2 million paid users, but we have much bigger aspirations. Remember, I told you that over 3 billion people are going into work every day, and most of those are frontline workers. These people fundamentally don't have the tools that they need to get the job done, and that's where Workplace is coming in. We're about connecting everyone in the organization from the head office to the front line. And we're honored to serve the global workforce of some of the most recognizable brands out there, brands like Starbucks and Walmart, Delta, Heineken. And in many cases, what we're doing is taking our mission of connecting the workforce and extending that out to their front line. We're committing to solving one of the greatest challenges that these workers face, which is connection back into the organization. So if you take one of our customers like Starbucks and you think about one of their stores in a remote location, take the north of Scotland, for example, they have a store manager who might see their district manager once a week, and they probably don't see senior leadership at all. And in these cases, it can be quite lonely and quite disconnected to work in those stores. So what we've done with Workplace is bring that community to them, connecting them back into the rest of the company. We hear from a lot of our customers these sentiments, these challenges with connecting the entire workforce. And they tend to manifest in 3 ways. The first, Workplace is bringing companies closer, bringing the frontline closer into companies. The second is that collaboration is happening more quickly and faster across locations. And when both of these happen, the culture of the company is stronger. So I'm going to take you through each of these with a few customer examples. In the case of Closer, The company becomes closer when information flows more freely. This is one of my favorite examples. It's from a company called Eimskip. They are an Iceland-based shipping and logistics company, and they operate out of 19 countries. Now, they had a challenge because they have to get information out to their workforce in a very fast and consistent way. But their workforce are ship captains and truck drivers. They're on their mobiles, and they had, up until very recently, not had the ability to find that tool and to get that information out to them. But now they're using Workplace. They have groups like the Vessel Operations Group that provides ship movements. Their communication teams use a group called First Responders that gets media updates out to the entire workforce. And I really like how their president and CEO, Gylfi Sigfusson, put it. He said, "This is a way that we've become a more efficient global organization. And there's a bonus because now the company feels closer." Delta is one of the most recognizable brands in the world. But you may not know that about 70% of their workforce is frontline. So these people are flying planes, they're driving tugs, they're supporting passengers, and they're traveling a lot, not surprisingly. Sometimes this puts them in harm's way. So what Delta's done is they've used a feature of ours called Safety Check for crisis management. In the case of Safety Check, they're using it to see if people need assistance or they're safe in an emergency. Joanne Smith is the Chief Human Resources Officer of Delta, and she told this really amazing story. A little while ago in Hurricane Florence, Delta had lost power in many of its rest centers, and their technology across the company wasn't working, except for Workplace. They were able to stay together and to communicate over Workplace. And there was this one case of a woman who was actually trapped in her house as a result of the hurricane. She had trees all over her yard. And she posted about this on Workplace. And other employees saw it. They came to her house with chainsaws, and they got her out so that she could go to work. So not surprisingly, Joanne said that this was a really cool moment for them. So we've seen how Workforce has made the organization to feel closer. Now I want to talk a little bit about how we make the organization and teamwork faster. And specifically, one of the things that we see with the Frontline is that their workflows are really broken. It's really difficult for them to use technology to get the job done. So we seek to fix those broken workflows so that they can do the task at hand. Tan Tang Sek is one of the biggest hospitals in Singapore, and they're using bots to automate everyday tasks. So they have the directory bot, which allows their nurses to look up clinics. They have the integrations, the translation bot, and this takes the name of departments and the names of rooms and translates it into the 4 national languages of Singapore. They've got a short form bot that translates abbreviations and acronyms, and they have a pharmacy drugstore bot in which the nurses can look up information about a drug, packaging, they can look at the medication itself. And these types of bots are allowing the hospital to focus the nurses on the mission at hand, to heal and to care and to save lives. Yang Kang Kwang is the chief nurse of the hospital, and he talks about how the nurses are the backbone, the biggest part of their workforce. The hospital is growing, and it is becoming larger and increasingly more complex, but they're able to keep these nurses who are working all sorts of shifts together and bonded through one community because of Workplace. Now, the third and probably the most exciting aspect of Workplace is that we make the culture of the organization feel stronger because business is better, work is more meaningful when people feel that they are connected to the mission. Clarins is a luxury skin and cosmetics company, and 90% of their workforce is frontline. They don't have a work phone, they don't have a laptop, and they're in the stores. It can be very lonely for this workforce and for the managers. And what Workplace has done is we've provided them the ability to build a community across the stores. And this has had a very meaningful impact on their bottom line. They've had a 2% reduction in employee turnover since launching Workplace. Emily Mannery is the Director of CRM, Digital, and E-commerce. And she talks about the difference in expectation. When they brought Workplace in, they thought that it was going to connect top down and bottom up. And what it ended up doing is building a peer community. And she describes this as a win-win. Now, we can really only deliver on that connected, faster, and stronger mission if we are meeting our customers where they are. So one of the things that we make sure that we do is connect to the tools that you love all in one place. Last year at F8, we announced a workplace integration directory, and this is a platform for giving people third-party tools that they use every day. Now we have integrations that have been purpose-built for the frontline workforce, and I want to walk you through a couple of those. So this is the integration with Cron. They are a time and attendance company. And here you have employees who can check their shifts, accept their shifts. And in this case, you see the managers who are viewing and approving time off requests. This is the Paychecks Flex Assistant. Here, an employee can look at their paycheck. They can look at their retirement plan. They can check their time off balances. These are things that seem so simple. Maybe some of us take this for granted. But if you're working in a factory or you're working in the shop, you're oftentimes struggling with really poor connections. You might have to faff about with a VPN to get back into the office. And a lot of times what we've heard is that there may be a shared kiosk and the front line is queuing to check this information on their break. It shouldn't be this hard to get basic information to people. So now it's not. Aware is another partner who integrates with Workplace. They provide compliance tools. What you see here is their sentiment and overall health dashboards. Here, Aware is, you can do things like you can archive content, track edits and deletions. These are the types of features that are really critical when you're doing e-discovery and legal holds. And those processes are super critical when you're working and supporting the front line because there are very complex labor regulations with this workforce. We have partners as well, both on the technical side and the change management side, who have experience with enabling the front line. And these are 4 of them. We're about to have one of them come on the stage, the bot platform, and talk to us a little bit more about how they do this with Ennismore. So at this point, I'm going to have some chairs come up on stage so we can sit, and then welcome our customer and partner up. Great. Okay. So we have Marcus Eleftherio. I told you I'd do that. I practiced that like 15 or 20 times. Eleftherio, Head of Culture and Internal Communications at Ennismore, and Sid Lawrence, who is the CEO and co-founder of the bot platform. Thank you so much for joining us, and please have a seat.
Thanks for having us.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to start off just by getting to know you two a little bit more. Marcus, can you tell me a little bit about Ennismore?
Yeah, sure. So Ennismore is a global hospitality group, and we create brands to inspire discovery. So one of our biggest brands, everybody might know, is Gleneagles, which is a 1,000-acre estate in the Scottish Highlands. And one of our fastest growing brands is the Hoxton. We have 7 across Europe and the US, and we have 2 more opening later this year. We have over 2,100 employees. For 50%, over 50% email-less, so without emails, but we consider 70% of them to be deskless. So they're really the frontline employees. Yeah. And I think my role, well, I guess my role is, there's 2 parts. Obviously, internal communications, how we talk to each other, how do we create an ecosystem of our people platforms to bring it together to kind of create a seamless user experience. But the other side is really looking at the employee experience from start to finish, and how do we keep our teams engaged, and how do we make sure that our values are coming through, and that they're really kind of enjoying what they're doing with us and having fun.
Great. Can you talk to us a little bit about how and why you brought Workplace into Ennismore?
Yeah, I think about a year and a half ago, when I started, we realized we were at a tipping point in different reasons, in terms of the growth, but also in terms of communication and how spread out the team were. We were just about to go into the US for the first time. And then so we really started to realize that actually our culture and communication was at risk. And hiring for culture is really important to us. We wanted to have something that brought the whole team together, as you said before, something that would kind of break down the barriers, but also close the gap from the front line to the CEO, but also between the sites. And so we really started to think, what tools can we use to do that? And also, how can we create more of a sense of belonging to Ennismore? People very much felt part of Gleneagles, or they felt part of the Hoxton, but they weren't quite sure, where Ennismore fitted in. So we were really trying to push the employer brand. In my last job, I had used Workplace, so I knew its potential. Yep. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I knew its potential. I hadn't seen it on this scale, and my last job, there was only 50 of us. So I really kind of knew that we could do a great good things with it.
And how large is the deployment? How many users?
We are about 84% active.
Okay.
Active accounts, but on a monthly basis, we're getting about 94% logging in.
It's great.
So it's a huge amount.
Yeah. Talk about connection.
Yeah.
All right, Sid, your turn. Tell us a little bit about the bot platform and what you do.
Sure. So we actually started off as a very different company back in 2011, where we were working with rock stars like the Rolling Stones and Madonna and One Direction, all around how to engage with their customers and fans and encourage their customers and fans to do something, buy something, or stream something. And kind of over time, we started to build out automation tools to be able to automate this engagement, automate content, processes, and workflows. And that kind of ended up start of where we are now. And now we're actually helping people be more productive at work. And it's certainly not as sexy as the Rolling Stones or Madonna, but it is a hell of a lot more fulfilling. And now we're working with companies like Booking.com and Weight Watchers and Ennismore and many others all around how do we encourage people to do something or feel part of the culture.
Yeah, that's a very interesting journey from Madonna to bots.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about how you two met and first started working together?
Yeah, I think bots was always on the cards for us, but I thought we would probably get to it in year 2. But 6 months in, I was like, I just want to get going, and there's so much we could do with bots. So the team in London introduced us to Sid and the team, and we met up in our office. We met in one of our meeting booths, and then we just kind of started to plan. And then we really started to look at, what bots was it that we needed, what would kind of come in the order of preference, what would really help solve some initial challenges, but what would also make things a lot more fun for the team. So we just kind of started creating, and then from there on, just did lots of things.
Yeah, it's all around the purpose and the point of the bot. And I think we certainly got a lot of people coming to us at the beginning saying, we want a bot. Cool, what do you want it to do? No idea, we want a bot. Great, thanks. It's all, what's the point of it? What's the problem you're solving? Why would people use it? What's the value they get from it? And once you've kind of worked out the problem, it's then quite easy to craft a solution around that.
Yeah. So what was the first problem that you sought to tackle in the first bot that you built together?
So we have a kind of peer-to-peer recognition scheme called Ennismore Hero for Ennismore and the Hoxton, and then Spirit of Glen for Gleneagles. And so historically, one would have to get a piece of paper from the management office or go to the management office, get a piece of paper, fill it out, put it in a post box. And so if you think about a gardener at Gleneagles who is never in the main house, who kind of might be a mile down the road in the kind of the middle of the golf course, that kind of just puts lots of barriers in the way, makes it really difficult. So we created a bot. I think we did it in half a day session at our office. And what it's enabled people to do is to be able to give recognition whenever they want, wherever they are, on the spot, which kind of just makes it a lot more kind of engaging, but also a lot more real and kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you're not a developer, right? You're a business person. You're a comms person. So can you talk a little bit about, and I think this gets to the choice of working with the bot platform, like how you approached bots as a non-technical person?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most kind of important reason why we chose the bot platform.
Yeah.
There's no code required. You can create a bot and start again if you really don't like it, which I've done many times. I've created a bot on a Sunday night before in 2 hours.
That is one of my favourite moments.
Do tell.
So we got a post in our MCG on a Sunday night from Marcos to say, just had this amazing idea for a bot. I've decided to knock it together, and I'm going to launch it to the company on Tuesday. And I'm just there going, yes, Marcos. The power to be able to make something, right? Like, I'm a developer, a developer by trade. And us developers, we actually get in the way. Like, I was chatting with a voice designer at Google the other day, and she was saying that her biggest problem is that she'll spend 3 months coming up with a script. She'll hand it to a developer, and then the developer makes it better, spends their 5 minutes, tweaks a word, changes the hi to hey, like does something, and makes it better. When it's not better, it's just different. Like, I kind of want to give the tools to people who aren't technical to be able to create technical solutions. I think is like the joy from people's faces when they make something for the first time is awesome.
Yeah, and I think one Saturday my CEO messaged me, and I was kind of binging Netflix on the sofa, and he was like, I'm really sorry to message you on a Saturday, but I've just had an email go out from my account, and it's a kind of asking people to top up something on my iTunes account, something fraudulent. And he's like, I've put this post, but can you send a bot out? So I knocked one up in like 15 minutes, sent a link out to the post just being like, hey, everyone, Sharon's just said this, please read it. And I think I watched the counter, and within 20 minutes, we already had something like 400 views.
Wow.
And just that speed, having to kind of brief an agency, wait for the agency to, as you said, to do it and come back, that's kind of not how we are. That's not how our culture is. It's not fast-paced enough for us. And I think with the bot platform, we really just have that sense of ownership.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to look at some of the bots in action. So we have a couple here. If you both can walk me through this one.
This is the one that I created on the Sunday night. So this is Discover Your Best Self. So Discover Your Best Self at Ennismore is our learning and development philosophy. And our training manager every month creates a calendar of events for the team based in a different location. So this is our London poster, and we send it out via a bot and also in a workplace group. And then a user can go on, pick their location, where they're based, and based on their location, it will show what sessions are available to them. They can go through the sessions, and then they can RSVP. And then through a Zapier link, it goes through to a Google Doc, which the training manager has access to. And from there, she confirms via a workplace event once their spot is confirmed. And so, again, there's no need to check with your manager to see if you're allowed to go. There's kind of no back and forth. There's no forms. And as we know, every single user has a mobile phone on them, so they have access to the whole thing themselves.
It's very cool.
And I think that was 4 clicks, maybe. This one is actually, we worked more closely with the bot platform on because there was some integration required with our website. And so for everyone here, Peeps is our employee rate to stay at the Hoxton. So if you're an employee, you can stay at the Hoxton for £25 or $45. And historically, it was done on the Hoxton.com. And you just used a code, which I'm sure you could all figure out based on the name that you're here. And essentially, when employees would leave or someone would put it on Facebook, and then we started to get bookings of ex-employees or people who never worked for us. So what that started to do is really reduce the number of available rooms. So through this bot, which we're launching this week, you can manage the whole process from the start through to the booking, choosing the room, and even the payment confirmation. I think we're probably, hopefully, one of the first people on Workplace to do payment through chat. But you manage the whole process, and you get your confirmation and a message as well at the end. So for us, that really, we know now whoever books a room at the Peeps rate is an employee, and they have access to Workplace.
And can I ask you, when you sent this over, you told me a really interesting fact about this, which is that, well, I'll ask you to say it. The thing that you were telling me about how previously you were only able to offer this at a certain...
Yeah, I think we had to be careful how much we had on the website, and we, as I said, the more people that were using it, we weren't quite sure who was using it, so we had to be a bit more careful. And now this has enabled us to be a little bit more kind of free with how many we offer across the company, because we know they'll guarantee to be used by employees.
Yeah, great.
And it just makes the experience a lot more fun and enjoyable when you can throw a gift in or two.
And on that, I mean, like there's a few laughs, right? Like giving these things personality, and different companies have different cultures. So going back to the hi, hey, hello example,
Yes.
like Walmart is going to have a completely different tone of voice to someone else. So I believe that these things should be fully customizable per organization. And also, I don't want to do that customization.
Yep.
So giving a system to the communicators, the people that have spent their lives learning how best to communicate, I think is a really powerful thing.
Can you talk a little bit more about, you had the integration back into the website, right? Can you talk about just that part, that aspect of the implementation, how long it took, best practices, things?
So we worked quite closely with your web team, and we didn't have to spend that much time on our end, but we did have to do a little bit of a few bits and pieces. But we actually have an API, so we kind of, there are times where our API doesn't do everything that people want it to, which is where we then have to build it on, but then the beauty of that is then all of our customers get access to it. And so we didn't have to do that much, but it was just to connect it into the, I think it was just using the Paychecks ID, which had to be passed through, which we didn't have set up as a thing onto the website.
Got it.
I was going to say, and the beauty of it is that cat gif or the gif at the end, I think that's Rihanna. We can just change that after a few weeks so it's not stale, so it kind of always remains fresh. And again, how annoying would it be to have to kind of message an agency to do that for us, give them a gift, and then have to go into the schedule of work and get charged for it every time.
Right. No, that makes sense.
And then I think this one is our peer-to-peer one, which is Spirit of Gleneagles. And again, as I said, anyone can go on. They can look at what the prizes are, what our kind of Spirit of Glen is, the different values as well. So we're a very values-led organization. We're constantly talking about them. They can read up what it means to us. And again, through the bot, they can vote for their nominee of the month. And then that kind of goes, again, into a Google Doc, and we have all the nominations there, and the leadership team will take a look and decide the winner. So it just kind of makes everybody part of the process.
Yeah.
I think for this one, the first time we launched it, we had a 500% increase based on the average the last year of applicants. So before we were kind of getting something like 10, 12 when it was done through paper, and we had over 90 in the first month. So it kind of really increased and allowed everyone to be part of it.
That's great.
We're seeing that with so many customers now on things that their processes previously had done on paper. I'm amazed.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that it's still that way. Yeah. But it is. I mean, you had one of your examples, which we haven't got on the video, was the way to exchange with Switch It Up, which was an initiative you had to switch with someone else in a different hotel in a different country. And with your culture being all about inspiring discovery, and kind of when it was done on paper, people stopped just doing it. Different hotels would just stop running that initiative. And so then the staff weren't able to enjoy that part of the culture.
Exactly.
Because it was such a pain.
Such a faff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that, and I like the example that you gave too about with the one previously. You could be more generous as a result. Sure. Yeah. We've been talking about the frontline workers. Can you tell me a little bit about the workforce at Ennismore? You mentioned the deskless workers and just the challenges that they face in doing their jobs.
Yeah, I think we have such a broad range of roles and types of people. So we have, as I said, gardeners in Gleneagles who never go to the main house. We have chefs, housekeeping. We have front desk workers, and they've all kind of got their own challenges. I think what Workplace has enabled us to do is connect them, which is kind of the most powerful thing. And I checked last night when I was in my hotel room, and last month we had sent over 370,000 messages. So that's in 1 month alone, kind of created by 1,800 people, which is really powerful, which means they're just connecting themselves, which is really great. And that's what we saw with one of our housekeeping teams, is before we had Workplace, they would use their personal mobile phones to call the front desk for assistance. And now they have chat. They can call their supervisor direct, or they can call a fellow housekeeper, and they can just go direct to support them. So not only does that save time, but it also saves a huge amount of money for them personally. And then our front desk teams are really using Workplace to help solve and improve guest service. So we have something called In the Hood, which is all around crowdsourcing recommendations. And so if I go to New York, which I did last week, I can go to a restaurant, I can go to the Williamsburg group, I can just kind of write a small review, put a link, and hashtag it in the hood. And so the next time someone goes to a front desk to say, okay, where should I go for something to eat? I'm looking for a vegan place. They can search in the hood, and all the recommendations will come up. And that really helps us keep our recommendations kind of up to date, like-minded, because our guests are like us, and really kind of shows the power of the tool of crowdsourcing.
What's the response been then for this type of information from the folks who are using it?
Yeah, a huge amount. They found it so useful, and it really enabled us to use everybody as a source. It's not just kind of the people who live in Williamsburg that have the opportunity to do that. Everyone can input, and people really like being part of it. They really like sharing where they've been and what they've done. So the uptake has been great. From a manager perspective, our managers are really using it to train their teams. So whether that's showing them how to set a table in a new Gleneagles restaurant, or whether that is showing a new dessert on the menu, how to sell it, what it looks like, what the allergens are, what it kind of goes with in terms of dessert wine. There's a whole host of ways that they're using it. It can kind of connect directly, but also kind of improve their workflows.
It's great. It's great. Now, Sid, I wanted to ask you, because you had started out building bots on Facebook, and now you're doing it with Workplace as well. Can you talk a little bit about that transition and what it's like to build bots on Workplace?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the infrastructure is the same, right? Which is one of the amazing things about it. There are quirks, but it is pretty much the same infrastructure. And whether you're dealing with customers and fans or internal staff members, it's still people. Like, it's that whole B2B2C thing. No, it's not. It's just people. Like, we're just speaking with humans. And so once you know how to communicate with humans, it doesn't matter whether that is internal or external. And so that's the hardest change has actually just been from the strategic side. The use cases are very different. There are some are very similar, like help desks, for example, internal help desks, and like that whole FAQ type thing, and even the voting system. So one of our first messenger bots was for a Dutch DJ called Hardwell, and he wanted people to vote on his track of the week because he has a podcast every week. And he used to get like 30 votes a week on his website, and then he was getting about 30,000 votes a week via his messenger bot. Like, it was huge. And so that's a similar use case.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference has been that. The technology is the same. We do have kind of two offerings, because groups are very different. Like, you have your groups, and we can kind of use the org chart to kind of ping to manager when someone does something, and kind of very quite cool integrations around that kind of thing, which we can't do on Messenger. But mostly it's the same.
So you have org charts, one of the features that we have in Workplace, where you can see people's reporting lines. Are there other things that you're able to do building the bots on Workplace, because some of the features that have been developed for work that are exclusive to the platform?
So the main ones are kind of the org chart that we use for some things quite extensively. The different groups and kind of segmentation. So on Messenger, it's very much a case of an opt-in process for being able to send messages to people. Whereas on Workplace, what you can't do with consumers is you can't mandate them to use a piece of software. What you can do with staff is mandate them to use a piece of software.
Or create enough FOMO so they have to use it.
Creating FOMO. I like that.
And that's, there's that. That's certainly one advantage.
Great. And Sid, I also wanted to talk to you about, because we have some developers in the audience, if you have advice for them on building integrations for, either building integrations on Workplace or building for work as opposed to consumer, what would be kind of key pieces of advice that you'd offer?
So kind of what Mark was saying earlier. I mean, like, when we were doing stuff with One Direction, you don't, there's a better example here. Do not underestimate the intensity of a Kylie superfan. So they will dig into your code and they will try and find secrets. Like, I remember one day where we rickrolled her fans trying to find some latest information, which was excellent. But kind of security has to be at the forefront. Security and privacy and kind of stability. Like, making sure your stuff works. I'm amazed even today with how many technology solutions don't work. We as a technology company have a joke internally, which is #technology, when a third-party tool stops working. Like, no, I don't understand why people aren't comfortable putting an SLA behind things, I have to admit, because it is making sure stuff works, especially when it's a business process. We do. I mean, I have no issues if any of our customers have any issues to give me a call. Like, I want to fix it. I want to make sure it's fixed. Like, it's making sure stuff works, because more often than not, software doesn't seem to. And like, everything. Making sure stuff works, giving it a go. Same with, and also, actually, my number one request, probably a request rather than a suggestion, is can we stop calling these things chatbots? No one wants to chat with a bot, but you do want to use a machine to access information or to complete tasks. And so, doing it properly, thinking about security, thinking about privacy, thinking about stability, and not just thinking about, but kind of making sure. And then, those would be my main.
And thinking about the tasks that lend themselves to this type of...
the purpose.
Yeah.
Like, technology is there to solve a problem. It's not just there for the sake of technology. And people seem to forget that half the time as well.
Marcus, can you talk a little bit about how you prioritize the integrations that you choose, or the bots that you build?
Yeah, so I think in my head I always had a long list of things we wanted to get to.
Yeah.
And as I said, it was actually what can we do to reduce admin or save time, and what could we do to save some trees? And also what could we just make more fun and more interesting and more engaging. So and it's more here in spirit of Glenn, how did we engage in people in a little bit easier? How do we make it easier for people to take part? And so we kind of just got our way through some of them. There was some that I started and dropped because I was bored of and challenged by part of it, and then I picked them back up again and started again. But also we had then teams, after a while we had teams requesting bots. So they kind of went to the top of the pile, because I was like, okay, if someone's requesting a bot, they really want it, they're into it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ones that came from our graphics team is called Hammer Time. And essentially what it does is every day at 5 o'clock, it sends a message to the graphic team and asks them 3 questions, and they have to fill in what brands they've been working on, what the project was, and how long they've worked on it. And what they needed to do anyway via paper, which was a huge amount of admin to fill out, and then for the project manager to put into an Excel sheet, and then the finance department would put it into their Excel sheet. And now all the information gets sent to a Google Doc, which has been pre-created, this amazing spreadsheet the finance team have done, pre-created, and it just kind of allocates all their times to a brand and really does it instantly.
Yeah.
And that's just saved a huge amount of time for everyone involved. And it's just, again, has made it a little bit more fun, so they don't have to kind of actively think about doing it at 5 o'clock. They know they have to fill it out because Hammer Time is telling them it's there.
And it's called Hammer Time because I'm expecting a dance or something.
No, I mean,
Does it have a GIF in it?
Does it have a GIF?
it does have a GIF. It has a bank of GIFs.
Oh, good.
So
A randomization
of GIFs.
Strong.
It took me a while to pull those kind of 100 together, but I got there. I can't
Hard
believe
part of the job, right?
I spent a good 2 hours pulling together 100 GIFs. But yeah, I mean, it was just Hammer Time because of Hammer Time, really. No other reason.
Okay. So let's talk about benefits and value. If you can talk about you've alluded to a few of these already, but maybe just to put a pin in it. The single biggest piece of value.
I think I'll do 2 for workplace. I'll cheat. I think one, just giving a platform to employees to connect and feel really valued, that we're putting so much internal resource and investment into a platform that is for them. We all spend so much time and money and investment on external platforms for our guests. But I think now we're starting to see a great benefit from the fact that we're doing so much for our team, and that we're creating the user experience is much better with our other platforms. So I think that is one. And I think just sharing the culture, being able to kind of see what's happening across the pond, or just giving Glen Eagles a pat on the back from Amsterdam has really created an even better culture than what we had before.
Yeah, bringing the groups together.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for bots, I think it's just doing things in a cooler way. I think that's the biggest benefit, and saving a huge amount of time.
Excellent. So the kind of final question I have for each of you is, what's next? What's on the horizon?
Oh God. So we've got 14.
Be a sneak peek.
We've got 14 bots built already. There's a couple more, and there's going to be, so we're moving away from printed handbooks. So Workplace will become a new place for handbooks for each site, but also to accompany that, we want to create a bot which will be kind of a handbook, a requested handbook, so kind of retrieving information. So if someone types the maternity policy, it will show the maternity policy for their location. So I think that's the next biggest probably project we've got on. I'm trying to think what else we have. I think that's, yeah.
Oh, I've no idea what bots you're building. You're building them all the time. For us, I mean, we've got plenty of things that we're working on. I mean, you guys have got the 1% finished, and we're kind of similar. Our big things is making it easier to start these things and to build them. We've got a whole range of templates now to use for some of the most popular ones that our customers are using.
Yeah.
But there's a whole new kind of install flow coming in, and then kind of quite a lot of things going on behind the scenes to make our analytics better and more insightful, as well as kind of being able to personalize the content and automate it in just a better way. So we do quite a lot of personalization, so that people can do right message, right time, but kind of improving some of that around some of the features that we can use on Workplace. There's a big thing with us with regards to security, just making sure we have more certificates in place. I mean, we're quite a young organization. We haven't yet got our SOC audits. We are in the process of getting them all done, and that takes up quite a lot of our time. Yeah.
So I said final question, but actually want to pick up on the analytics point that you made, and just ask both of you about the metrics that you're using to like measure the success of the integrations.
So it depends on the integration, what the success is. It depends on the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
I mean, the metrics that we have that is more standardized across everything is kind of the number of people that have used them, kind of what the message engagement is like. So where you can do with flows, you can kind of see where people drop off. So if you're trying to encourage someone to complete a specific task, how far do they go and why do they drop off at that point? Then we're also looking at kind of doing better ways to provide feedback for these things. So one of our customers did a pulse the other day, and it was something stupid like 85% of the people that had used it actually bothered to provide the feedback and provided positive feedback, which was awesome. And kind of just seeing, it's still figuring out what works and what doesn't a little bit. I mean, bots on Workplace have only been around for 2 years, and certainly, I mean, for us, it's taken a while, because for the first 6 months, everyone was just, I want a bot, cool, what do you want it to do? Don't know, great, see you in 6 months. But now we've got many more like success cases and kind of people who are interested in trying.
Yeah, great. Well, you had talked about the Facebook saying of the journey being only 1% finished, so I think you set me up for just saying for us, this is a Facebook saying, but if we look at the 3 billion workers that I mentioned, and so many of them on the front line, and you look at the just the lack of technology they've had to this point, and how with these tools that really replicate consumer experiences, we can bring it to them. We feel like we have to put another little decimal point in front of the one. We're 0.1% finished, but we're really excited to be on the journey. And I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your stories. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.